शलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनेति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। आनंद लीलामय विग्रहाय हेमावदिव्य छवि सुंदराय तस्मै महाप्रेम रसप्रदाय चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते। चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते। चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते। Hare Krishna. So in our previous two discussions, we discussed about how the two doorkeepers of Lord Vishnu, that is Jai and Vijay, were cursed by the four Kumaras to come down to this world for 3 lifetimes as demons. And we saw how in the first lifetime they came as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, and then they came in the second lifetime as Ravana Kumbhakarna, and in the third lifetime they came as Shishupal and Dantavakra. And then we later also saw from the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam as to how Hiranyaksha, the brother of Hiranyakashipu, he had drowned Mother Earth in Rasatal, and this news reached Brahmaji, and Brahmaji was thinking to himself as to how he can protect Mother Earth, because Brahmaji is the creator, he is strong, but Hiranyaksha was extremely strong, much more powerful and stronger than Brahma. And at that time we discussed as to how the Supreme Lord Varahadev appeared, and he not only rescued Mother Earth, but he also defeated Hiranyaksha and restored Mother Earth back to her rightful place of dignity and honor. And at the end of our second discussion that we had last week, we made this point that because Varahadev killed Hiranyaksha, this is what sparked enmity in the heart of Hiranyakashipu. Because when he saw his brother was killed at the hands of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he became envious and he was fuming with anger. His eyes became red and he was thinking, where is Vishnu? Where is Vishnu? He has this audacity that he can come down and kill my brother. That brother who was so nice and so obedient and so faithful, Vishnu comes in the form of a wild boar and comes and kills him. I have to now take revenge from Vishnu. So that is where we left off in our previous discussion. Now, continuing from the point where we left off, we've seen the example of Hiranyaksha, that when Hiranyaksha was slamming Varahadev with his club, this was giving immense happiness to Varahadev because the Lord was experiencing Viriras. We see boys generally have this tendency to fight, whether it is fist fight or whatever it is. Physical fight is something that comes pretty naturally for the boys and may not be much for the girls. So the Supreme Lord Varahadev, he wanted to experience some Viriras. He wanted to fight. So when Hiranyaksha was slamming Varahadev, Varahadev was loving it. Every time his arm was hit by the club, the Lord was loving it. So he was giving happiness to the Lord. Now on the flip side, we find in the pastime of Damodar Leela, when Krishna was sitting on the lap, when Krishna was very small, and he was sitting and sort of sleeping on the lap of Maya Yashoda, Maya Yashoda saw that on the stove is a pot of milk. and the pot of milk was now overflowing. So, in order to attend to that pot of milk, what Maya Yashoda did, she kept Krishna to the ground and she went and attended to the pot of milk. But when she kept Krishna to the ground, it did not give happiness to Krishna, because we see from the commentators, they say Krishna was so angry that he was biting his lips with anger. And he took a small piece of stone and he threw at one of the hanging pots of buttermilk that was present. So when Maya Yashoda kept Krishna to the ground, Krishna was not happy. But on the flip side, we find when Hiranyaksha was slamming Varahadev, Varahadev was becoming very happy. So according to this, Hiranyaksha should be on the altar because he is giving happiness to the Lord, while Mother Yashoda should not be on the altar because she is not giving happiness to the Lord. Because we find devotees mean they should give happiness to Krishna. So here Hiranyaksha is giving happiness to Varahadev, while Maya Yashoda is not giving happiness. So according to definition, Hiranyaksha should be a devotee, while Maya Yashoda should not be a devotee. But in addition to giving happiness to Krishna, Srila Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he says, Anyabhilashitam shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulena krishnanu shilanam bhakti uttama. He uses the word anukul. Anukul means favorable devotion. Giving happiness to the Lord is one thing, but our intention behind that activity is also equally important. When Hiranyaksha was slamming Varahadev, sure enough, Varahadev was getting happiness. But Hiranyaksha's intention was not to give satisfaction. His intention was not to give happiness to Varahadev. So that doesn't constitute as bhakti. But Maya Yashoda, even though she kept Krishna down to the ground, and even though Krishna was very unhappy about it, Krishna was very angry. But the reason she kept Krishna to the ground is so that she can attend to the milk, that milk which can later be given to Krishna. So her intention was to give happiness to Krishna. So on this path of bhakti, pleasing Krishna is one thing, but more important is our intention. Hiranyaksha's intention was not to give happiness to Krishna. So he is not a devotee. But on the contrary, Maya Yashoda's intention was to give happiness to Krishna. That is why for the 30 days of Kartik, we keep her on the altar and worship, because what matters in bhakti is our intention. And of course, along with intention, giving happiness to Krishna also equally matters. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says, Anukulena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. Favorable devotion is that where intention is involved. So we find when Hiranyaksha was killed at the hands of Varahadev, Hiranyakashipu became so angry that now in his heart was this desire of revenge. He wanted to take revenge from the Supreme Lord, that how dare does he come and kill my brother? So for this, he goes to the forest. He goes to the mountains in order to do tapasya. He goes to the forest, he goes to the mountains to do tapasya, so that from that tapasya he can get boons, so that he becomes powerful and he ends up defeating Vishnu. So the aim of going to the forest for Hiranyakashipu was not to please the Lord. So again, we see the same point. He is doing tapasya, which is a good act, but it is not to please the Supreme Lord. And it is again for this reason Hiranyakashipu is not a devotee. So the point I'm trying to reiterate is, in bhakti, what matters is intention. Apart from pleasing the Lord, our intention matters a lot. So Hiranyakashipu goes to the forest not to please the Lord, but to get boons in order to fulfill his revenge. On the flip side, we see today is the appearance day of Rukmini. Today is Rukmini Dvadashi, appearance day of Rukmini Maya. And in the life of Rukmini, we find Canto 10, chapter 52. Rukmini, when she writes the first ever love letter, we find people in this world write love letters. And many times, especially in the teenage, people are so enamored by the so-called beauty. Boys getting enamored by the beauty of girls, and girls getting enamored by the beauty of boys. So much so that I remember when I was in my engineering days, There would be boys who were so fanatic that sometimes with their blood, they would kind of slit their hand, and with the blood, they would write so-called love letter. This is the pathetic condition of this world. But this concept of writing the first ever love letter was done by Rukmini. And Rukmini did not use blood, she did not cut her hands. It was a genuine love letter that she wrote to Krishna, who was Dwarakadish. And what does Rukmini write in that love letter? Rukmini says that, my dear Lord, I know that you are my eternal husband. I may or may not be qualified. That is a different topic. But I know, my dear Lord, that you are qualified. You are very well qualified to become my husband. I may or may not be qualified. But, my dear Lord, I will not lose hope. In order to get you as my eternal husband, my dear Lord, I will do tapasya for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes together. I will do tapasya, give up my life. Next life, I will again do tapasya, give up my life. Next life, I will again do tapasya and again give up my life. My dear Lord, I will keep doing tapasya like this till the time I don't get you as my eternal husband. So we find this is the mood of a devotee. On this day of Rukmini Dwadashi, we learn this lesson from Rukmini that tapasya is meant whole and soul only for the purpose of giving pleasure, for giving satisfaction to Krishna. But Hiranyakashipu, he went to the mountains, he went to the forest to do tapasya, but the aim and intention was not to give happiness to the Supreme Lord. So that is why we don't have Hiranyakashipu as our role model. But we have Rukmini and personalities like Rukmini and so many others like Maya Yashoda, whom we keep on the altar and worship them because their intention was only to please Krishna. So when Hiranyakashipu, he goes and starts doing tapasya, Hiranyakashipu is so intense in doing his tapasya for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. He stands on the tip of his toe. He doesn't stand just on his 2 feet. We know how difficult it is just to stand on two of our feet for almost an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. But Hiranyakashipu, he stands on the tip of his feet for thousands of years with his hand raised completely above, not eating anything, not sleeping, not even drinking a drop of water. For thousands of years, he was doing tapasya this way, so much so that his body was completely covered with an ant hill. Ants started chewing his body completely. We find there are 2 types of ants. One is a black ant, which even if it bites you, it doesn't pain. But then is a red ant. Then when the red ant bites, there is an excruciating pain. We find a lot of red ants back in India. So when Hiranyakashipu was doing this tapasya, there was an ant hill completely formed, so much so that even his face was not to be seen. But he did not stop. He was so determined to take his revenge from Lord Vishnu that he did not stop. For thousands of years, he was doing it this way. And finally, when there was only bones and skeletons left in his body, when ants had completely eaten up his body, at that time, Brahmaji appeared. Brahmaji came down and he said, Hiranyakashipu, what is this? Seems like you have been doing tapasya for thousands of years. What is it that I can do for you? Please ask for a boon and I can grant you that boon. And at that time, Hiranyakashipu very shamelessly, he says that, oh Brahma, I want to become immortal. Please give me this benediction that I become immortal. Brahma starts laughing and saying, Are Baba, I myself, I don't have this boon. I myself, I am not immortal. How can I grant you that boon? Because we find Brahma, even though he is the creator, he has a manufacturing date and he has an expiry date. Brahma lives for 311 trillion, 40 billion years. I reiterate, Brahma lives for 311 trillion, 40 billion years. And how many years do we live? 60, 70, 80, max to max 90. Nowadays, we don't even find people living up to 90. 60 and 70 has become like the higher end of the spectrum. But Brahma, he lives for 311 trillion, 40 billion years. But still, he has to quit. There is a day when Brahma also dies. So when Hiranyakashipu asks for this boon that I want to become immortal, Brahma says, Are Baba, I am myself, I am mortal. How can I make you immortal? That's not possible. So now Hiranyakashipu is a demon. So now he thinks, okay, if this doesn't work, I will try to trick Brahma. So he starts asking benedictions that will make him immortal. He tells Brahma, okay, you can't make me immortal. Okay, I will ask for a few benedictions. You grant me that. Brahma says, okay, ask. And he says, my first boon that I want is I should not be killed inside the house. I should not be killed outside the house. Second, I should not be killed on water, on the surface of water. I should not be killed on land. Third, I should not be killed by animals. Fourth, I should not be killed by weapons. Fifth, I should not be killed by anyone whom you have created, Brahma. We find Brahma is the creator. So Hiranyakashipu, he put his trump card by saying that no one should kill me who has been created by you. Sixth, I should not be killed by the demigods. And he said, finally, the seventh, I should not be killed in any of the 12 months. We have January, February, March, April, etc. up till December. Hiranyakashipu, the Narsingha Puran says, Hiranyakashipu asked Brahma, I should not even be killed in all the 12 months. And Brahma said, okay, tathastu. And then when Brahma was going back, he said, wait, what? Should not be killed in all the 12 months? Should not be killed by anyone whom I have created? Wait a minute. No one exists like that. Everyone is created by me. And if you say you should not be killed in all the 12 months, how will he be killed? And not to be killed on water, not to be killed on land, not to be killed by weapons. Who is that person who will then kill him? So it seems like Hiranyakashipu, he initially did not get the boon of immortality, but he manipulated the boons in such a way that he felt that now he's completely immortal. And now Brahma, with his 4 heads, he was scratching his head. We see Brahma has 4 heads. He's a quad-core processor. He has 4 heads on all 4 sides. So with his different hands, 8 hands, he was scratching his head and thinking, wait, who will kill him? With all these boons, he has become so powerful. And now Hiranyakashipu, with all these boons, starts taking undue advantage. The first thing he does with all these powers, he dethrones all the demigods. He kicks out Indra from his position. So we find Indra again has this anxiety. We constantly keep discussing. Indra always has this anxiety of losing his position. So Hiranyakashipu, after he got this boon, he straight away went and kicked Indra out. Now all the demigods were running. He kicked everyone out. He became so powerful. He kicked all of them out. Indra, Chandra, Agni, Vayu, Varuna. He kicked all of them from their position, dethroned everyone. And then he asked his associates that go in the Earth planet and set houses on fire, start plundering people, start killing everyone, cut off trees, kill animals, kill the cows, and make sure the sadhus, make sure the brahmanas who are doing Vedic sacrifices, they should not be able to do Vedic sacrifice. Why? Because Hiranyakashipu thought to himself, it is this Vedic sacrifice that gives Vishnu all his power. Vishnu becomes so powerful because these sadhus are doing Vedic sacrifice for him. So if the sacrifice is stopped, Vishnu will become powerless. And then I can naturally go and even dethrone him from Vaikuntha. So it was almost like a master plan that Hiranyakashipu had made. And sure enough, these associates, these demoniac associates of Hiranyakashipu, they came down and they started setting houses on fire. They started killing people. They started plundering everyone. They started killing cows. They made sure that sadhus did not do Vedic sacrifices. Where Vedic sacrifices were going on, where yagya was going on, They would put fire in that and extinguish all the yagyas. And the sadhus would be crying and weeping, thinking, what is happening? And why is it that Brahma has given such boon to Hiranyakashipu? We see Brahma always gets cursed. He gets criticized for his activities. Here, the sadhus are thinking as to why Brahmaji gave these boons. And we find in the 10th canto, the Braja Gopis are transparently criticizing Brahmaji because of his faulty creation. So Brahma is always getting screwed for his faulty creation. So the sadhus were not able to do their tapasya, and now this was giving so much happiness to Hiranyakashipu. He was thinking to himself that now I have become one of the most, not one of the most, but I have become the most powerful person. And in due course, I will dethrone Vishnu and I will avenge for the death of my brother. My brother, who was so nice and so obedient, Vishnu had this audacity to come and kill him. Now it's just a matter of time. I will go and even kill Vishnu. And the Supreme Lord was seeing everything, what was going on. So when all these circumstances and calamities were going on, at that time when Hiranyakashipu was sitting in his kingdom, when he was sitting on his throne, he called his son, the celebrated personality of the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam and one of the Mahajans. He called his son Prahlad. He called Prahlad, will you come here? And Prahlad, who was very small, only 5 years old, Prahlad started walking up to his father. He walked up the steps, and Hiranyakashipu, because Hiranyakashipu is a demon, but he's also, at the end of the day, he's a father. So he asked Prahlad that, Prahlad, will you sit on my lap? And Prahlad sat on the lap of Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyakashipu was speaking sweet words to his son. He was patting him, he was massaging his head, and very sweetly he was speaking to his 5-year-old son. At that time, he entrusted the job of education, of teaching Prahlad to Shanda and Amarka. So there were two teachers for Prahlad by the name Shanda and Amarka. Now the question arises, who are Shanda and Amarka? Well, Shanda and Amarka are the two sons of Shukracharya. So the demigods, the guru of the demigods is Brahaspati, and the guru of the demons is Shukracharya. We find that especially people from the south, they will be very familiar of Brahaspati. Why? Because when Krishna was departing this world, when Krishna performed all his pastimes in Dwapar Yuga, and when Krishna was departing this world, Krishna gave a deity of himself, a small baby form, Bal Swarup. Krishna gave that form to Brahaspati, and he told Brahaspati that you establish this deity in the most holy place. So Brahaspati agreed. And now Brahaspati was thinking to himself that how am I going to search as to which place is the most holiest? So at that time, he called his friend Vayu, air, the lord of air, that is Vayu Dev. He called Vayu and he said, you are present in all directions and you fly faster than anyone. So I have this deity of Krishna whom I want to establish in the most holiest place, and you are very fast. So let us strike a deal. I'll sit on your back and you take me around and we will together search the most holiest place. So the deal was written, the contract was signed, and Brahaspati, who is the guru of the demigods, he sat on the back of Vayu and they were searching as to which place is the most holiest. And that place where this deity of Krishna was installed by Brahaspati, who is none other than Guru, and Vayudev, that place in south is called as Guru Vayur. Very famous place. It is called as Guru Vayur because the deity of Krishna was installed by Guru, that is Brahaspati, and Vayudev. So the two words come together and form Guru Vayur. So the guru of the demigods is Brahaspati, while the guru of the demons is Shukracharya. We find Shukracharya's name has been mentioned multiple times in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the pastime of Vaman Dev, we find Shukracharya's mention is there as to how he stopped Bali Maharaj from completely surrendering to the Supreme Lord Vamandev, and as to how Bali Maharaj used his intelligence and rejected the advice. He rejected his Guru Shukracharya because that Guru who doesn't encourage his disciple to surrender to Krishna is not a Guru, but he's a kangaroo. He's an animal. Because a real Guru is someone who will help his disciple to surrender to Krishna. If he is speaking of things of this world and not encouraging his disciple to surrender to Krishna, he is not better. He's nothing else but a kangaroo. He's an animal. Kangaroo. So Shukracharya's mention is there in the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. So he is the guru of the demons. The two sons of Shukracharya are Shanda and Amarka. So Hiranyakashipu gave the responsibility of teaching Prahlad Maharaj, who was back then, he was Prahlad. They gave the responsibility to Shanda and Amarka. And he said, oh Shanda and Amarka, oh celebrated sons of Shukracharya, please teach Prahlad. Please give him nice education. And Shanda and Amarka agreed. So the class began. And Shanda and Amarka, they would teach about dharma, artha, kama. They would teach about money. They would teach diplomacy. They would teach politics. But they would not speak about Krishna. They would not speak about Vishnu. They would teach Prahlad as to how Hiranyakashipu is the greatest. They would teach Prahlad as to how Hiranyakashipu is God, how he is Bhagavan, how he is the greatest, how he is the controller, and as to how everyone should worship only and only Hiranyakashipu. So Shanda and Amarka were teaching these subject matters to Prahlad. And Prahlad would hear everything. He would just nod his head and he would hear. So after a few weeks was done, after the first semester was done, at that time, Hiranyakashipu, he called Prahlad Maharaj and he said, oh Prahlad, will you please come here? And Prahlad very gracefully came to his father and sat on the lap of his father. And Hiranyakashipu asked him, oh Prahlad, please tell me as to what is the best thing that you have learned in school. You would have learned so many things in the last few months. Please tell me what is the best thing that you have learned. At that time, Prahlad Maharaj, he says, Tat sadhu manye asuravarya dehinam. He tells, oh father, Tat sadhu manye asuravarya dehinam. Oh father, who's the best among demons. Look at the guts of Prahlad Maharaj. He's sitting on the lap of the demoniac Hiranyakashipu and he says, oh best among demons. We find in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when the Brajagopis are addressing Giriraj, they say, Hantayam Adrurabala Haridasa Varya. Oh Giriraj, you are the best among devotees. You are the best among servants of the Lord. So that's a good title. But Prahlad Maharaj, look at his power and look at his fearlessness. That Hiranyakashipu who has so many boons and who's terrorizing the whole universe, Prahlad is sitting on his lap and telling Tatsadu Manye Asuravarya Dehinam, oh best among demons, oh best among demons, father. And Hiranyakashipu, when he hears this, he says, what are you saying, Prahlad? And Prahlad Maharaj at that time, he says, Hitvatma patam gruhamanda kupam vanam gatoya harima shrayata. Oh father, the best thing that I have learned in school is Hitvatma patam gruhamanda kupam. This whole world, household life, family life, material aspirations, material desires, material friends, this is gruhamanda kupam, oh my dear father. Kupam in Sanskrit means a well. Anda Kupam, it's a dark well. Why is it a dark well? Prabhupada gives this analogy. He says it is such a dark well which has no water in it. Now imagine a well which has no water, but people are frantically trying to search water in it. It's a hopeless, helpless effort because there is no water in it. Similarly, Prahlad is saying, my dear father, O best among demons, hitvatma patam gruhamanda kupam, this family life, this kingdom, this prestige and position that you're aspiring for and hoping for, my dear father, that is gruhamanda kupam. It's a dark well. It is complete hopelessness. You can imagine how painful it is for Hiranyakashipu to hear this. He did thousands of years of tapasya and he is hearing this from a 5-year-old son. And a 5-year-old son is saying, my dear father, what you're doing is complete hopelessness. And then he tells, my dear father, the suggestion that I have for you, Hitvata patam gruhamanda kupam vanam gatoya harimashrayata, my dear father, go to Vanam. And Prabhupada translates that Vanam as Vrindavanam. He says, my dear father, go to Vrindavan and do what in Vrindavan? Harima Shrayeta. My dear father, go to Vrindavan and take shelter of Hari. Take shelter of Vishnu, who's the supreme master, who's the supreme proprietor, who's the supreme controller, who's the supreme maintainer. Take shelter of that Vishnu. When Hiranyakashipu hears this, he becomes mad with anger. He calls Shanda and Amarka and he chastises and scolds Shanda and Amarka. He says, what have you taught him? Don't you know Vishnu is our demon? You know that Vishnu killed my brother Hiranyaksha and I entrusted the job of teaching my son Prahlad as to how great I am, but seems like you have taught him the greatness of Vishnu. He's coming and sitting on my lap and telling me Vishnu is greatest, that I have to go to the forest and worship Vishnu. What have you taught? And Shanda and Amarka, they're clueless. They're looking at each other and saying, we did not teach him. We taught him dharma, artha, kama. We taught him money and diplomacy and politics. We did not teach him this. We don't know how he learned all this. So Hiranyakashipu, at that time, he doesn't tell anything to Prahlad. When he hears that Shanda and Amarka have not taught, Hiranyakashipu thinks to himself, oh, maybe he has come across some Vishnu devotee and they have brainwashed him. So he tells Shanda and Amarka, make sure that he doesn't make any friends who are worshipping Vishnu. He should have no Vaishnava friends. And Shanda and Amarka, they agree. And Hiranyakashipu very nicely pats and speaks sweet words to Prahlad and asks him to go. So Prahlad Maharaj leaves. And Shanda and Amarka, they take Prahlad Maharaj and they ask him, Prahlad, where did you learn all these things? You were there in our classes. I was the teacher. It's almost like a Vedic school. They were enrolled in a Vedic school. So Prahlad Maharaj was saying, Shanda and Amarka, they said that this is like a Vedic school and we did not teach you about Vishnu. We did not teach you about Krishna. Where did you learn all these things? Who told you that Vishnu is the greatest? At that time, Prahlad Maharaj doesn't say anything. He just keeps quiet. So naturally, when Shanda and Amarka leave, the friends of Prahlad Maharaj, who were there at that time, they ask Prahlad that, oh Prahlad, you did not tell Shanda and Amarka, but we are your friends. You can reveal us the secret. Where did you learn all these things? Because we were there in the same school and we know Shanda and Amarka did not teach this. So can you tell us where you learned all this? And now naturally, this is a question that we should also have. Where did Prahlad Maharaj learn the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? We see Srila Prabhupada, he gives the theme of the 7th canto as the science of God. So the question arises, where did Prahlad Maharaj learn the science of God? It's interesting that when Hiranyakashipu was there in the mountains and when he was doing tapasya, why? So that he becomes immortal. At that time, our hero, Indra, he becomes insecure. Indra starts thinking to himself, If he does tapasya, that means he will become powerful. If he becomes powerful, that means he will come to my abode. If he comes to my abode, he will kick me out. If he kicks me out, what will happen to my position? So constant insecurity Indra has. So when Hiranyakashipu was in the forest doing tapasya, at that time Indra, he came and he held the hand of Kayadu, and Kayadu at that time was pregnant. When Hiranyakashipu left to the forest, at that time itself, Kayadu was pregnant. So now Indra was thinking to himself that Hiranyakashipu is so demoniac, how demoniac his son will be. Because we find that the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. If the parents are devotional, the children become devotional. If the parents are demoniac, the children become demoniac. If the parents are materialistic, the children are materialistic. Because the children learn from seeing their parents. Because they are small. For them, parents are the ideal role models. So Indra was thinking to himself that the father is so demoniac, how demoniac the son will be. So when Hiranyakashipu was in the forest, Indra took this opportunity. With a sword, he came in order to kill the fetus who was there in the womb of Kayadu. When Indra held the hand of Kayadu and he was taking her, at that time, Narad Muni came. Narad Muni with his veena was singing and he intercepted the path of Indra. Narad Muni was chanting the names of the Supreme Lord. Narad Muni bajaye veena Radhika Ramana name. Narad Muni bajaye veena Radhika Ramana name. Our acharyas describe that Narad Muni, he plays the veena, and in that veena he plays the name of Radhika Raman, Sri Krishna. He glorifies Radha and Krishna. So he was chanting the names of the Supreme Lord and he met Indra. And he told Indra that I promise you, I know Hiranyakashipu is demoniac, but I promise you his son will not be demoniac. So you have no fear from his son. And it is a promise from my end. I promise you. So don't kill the son who was there in the womb of Kayadu. And when this request came from Narad Muni, Indra did not doubt because Narad Muni is Paramhamsa. He is the greatest of the rishis, self-realized sadhu. So Indra trusted and he said, Narad Muni, if you are saying that this son is not demoniac, I trust you. I will not do anything. And Indra left. And Narad Muni took Kayadu to a particular place and he started describing the glories of the Supreme Lord. He started describing Srimad Bhagavatam. He started describing various scriptures about how charismatic and how dynamic the Supreme Lord is, as to how every single personality is the servant of the Supreme Lord. As Kaviraj Goswami says, Jivera Swarupa hoy Krishnera Nityadas. Every single Jiva is the servant of the Supreme Lord. So Narad Muni was speaking the glories of the Supreme Lord, and inside the womb, Prahlad was hearing everything. He was giving an oral reception to what Narad Muni is saying. So Kayadu was also hearing, but the intensity of Prahlad was way higher. Now the question arises, we have always heard that Narad Muni, he took Kayadu to a particular place and he spoke the glories of the Supreme Lord. The question that arises, which is that place? Which is that place in that entire creation where Narad Muni took Kayadu and spoke the glories of the Supreme Lord? Dear devotees, that place is still there in Vraj Mandal by the name Narad Kund. When we do Braj Parikrama, when we do Govardhan Parikrama, there is a place by the name Narad Kund. And Narad Kund is the place where Narad Muni sat and spoke to Kayadu. And it is this place where Prahlad in the womb heard everything from Narad Rishi. So if we haven't been to this place, may this narration, may this katha act as an inspiration for all of us to go to Vrindavan and see this historic place where Prahlad Maharaj heard the glories of the Supreme Lord. This place is called as Narad Kund because Narad Muni did bhajan and he spoke the glories of the Supreme Lord. It's very interesting, dear devotees. We find in whosoever life Narad Muni intercepts, they get uplifted. Narad Muni comes in the life of Dhruva, Dhruva Maharaj gets uplifted. Narad Muni comes in the life of Mrigari, Mrigari gets uplifted. Narad Muni comes in the life of Valmiki, Valmiki gets uplifted. Narad Muni comes in the life of Manigriva and Nalakuvera, we find in the pastime of Damodar Leela. He comes in the life of Manigriva and Nalakuvera, they get uplifted. So time and again we find in whosoever's life Narad Muni walks in, he uplifts him. And even in this case, when Narad Muni walked into the life of Prahlad Maharaj, he not just spoke the glories of the Lord, but he also uplifted Prahlad and made him a Mahajan. So this was the point where Prahlad learned the signs of God. Even before he heard anything from Shanda and Amarka, he had completely heard about the glories of the Supreme Lord. So now, when the friends asked Prahlad that Prahlad, where did you learn about the glories of the Supreme Lord? Prahlad describes everything that happened. And at that time, Prahlad he says, Kaumaram acharet pragyo dharman bhagavatan iha durlabam manusham janma tad api adhruvam artadam. Canto 7, chapter 6, text 1, Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, my dear friends, Kaumaram acharet pragyo dharman bhagavatan iha. He says, my dear friends, durlabham manusham janma. This human life is very rare. The bubble of human life can burst any times. So my dear friends, oh peers, please don't waste this human form of life. Kaumaram, start bhakti from a tender age. Kaumaram means from the age of 0 to 5. Prahlad Maharaj doesn't even say that you should start bhakti after 10 or start bhakti after 15 and 20. We see nowadays people generally say that when children start when bhakti started from a young age, people generally say that this is the age to play. This is the age to watch movies. This is the age to have a luxurious life. Why are you doing bhakti at this age? Bhakti is meant for the fag end of your life. But Sripad Ayendra Prabhu would make this point. He would say that bhakti has to be done at a young age. Because at the end of life, the ears can't hear, the eyes can't see, the tongue cannot speak anything, the hands become invalid, the legs become invalid, the throat is choked by kapapita vayu, by bile, mucus and air. Is that the time when we are going to start the process for which the human life is given? No. Human life is given whole and soul only for God realization, nothing else. That is the only aim of human life. So that is why bhakti should be started from a young age when the eyes can properly see, when the ears can properly hear, when the tongue can properly speak, when the throat has the proper potency, when the hands can do Vaishnava Seva, when the legs can walk to the temple, when the whole body can be used to the perfect essence. That is the time bhakti should be started. That is between 0 and 5. So he says, Kaumaram Acharit Pragya. Oh, my dear friends, don't hear to Shanda and Amarka. They are teaching about politics and diplomacy and money, but that is not the aim of life. The aim of life is only Hari Bhajan, is only to worship Krishna. So very beautifully in the 7th canto, chapter 6, Prabhupada gives the title of that chapter as Prahlad instructs his demoniac friends. So if we have time, we can read that beautiful section where Prahlad is speaking. It's called as Prahlad Siksha, instructions of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad's preaching to his peers. So we find when Prahlad Maharaj is narrating this way about the glories of Krishna Bhakti, Prahlad Maharaj makes a very beautiful point. When he's speaking this esoteric discussion, his heart is overwhelmed for what Narad Muni has done to him. because it is because of Narad Muni that his complete perception has changed 180 degrees. So his heart is so overwhelmed that he offers his gratitude to Narad Rishi. He says, Evam janam nipatitam prabhavahi kupe kama bikamam anuya prapatan prasangat ritva akmasat surasina bhagavan grihita soham katham nu visruje tava bretya sevam. Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 28, Srimad Bhagavatam. This is also one of Srila Prabhupada's favorite verses. We find in the song Krishna Tava Punya Habe Bhai. In that song, in the middle section, when Prabhupada is there in Jaladuta, Prabhupada, he adds this verse in order to offer his gratitude to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So this verse is actually chanted by Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj is saying, Evam Janam Nipatitam Prabhavahi Kupe. He's saying people of this world are all going into a blind well, as we discussed earlier. Prabhavahi Kupe. Kamabi Kamam Anuyah Prapatan Prasangad. And why are they going into a blind well? Kamabi Kamam. Desires after desires. Material desires are so much there in the heart that it is dragging them, it is pulling them down to hellish planets. Prahlad Maharaj says, Ritvak Masat Surasina Bhagavan Grihita. At that time, a Sura came in my life. Sura means godly person. A Sura means someone who is not godly. And Sura means someone who is godly. So he says, Ritvak Masat Surasina Bhagavan Grihita. At that time, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, he sent a Sura, he sent a godly person in my life. Who? Narad Muni. Soham katam nu visruje tava bhritya seva. He tells his friends that how can I give up the service of that Narad Muni who taught me the science of God? How can I ever leave the lotus feet of Narad Rishi? How can I ever leave the lotus feet of my Guru Maharaj? So this is a wonderful prayer that we can by heart and chant for our spiritual master. That spiritual master who has opened my eyes, how can I ever leave his service? Very wonderful words that Prahlad Maharaj chants. So when he is explaining this way, the friends are completely awestruck. The friends are thinking to themselves that we are all 5 years, but seems like he has more experience than what we have. It's almost like Prahlad Maharaj at the age of 5 was sitting on the Vyasasana and giving a Bhagavatam class. We can imagine that if a 5-year-old is asked to sit in the Vedic temple of our ISKCON Seattle, and in front of 1,000 people, if he has to give a Bhagavatam class, what to speak of 5-year-old? Even a 50-year-old will find it difficult to speak in front of 1,000 people. But here is Prahlad Maharaj, a 5-year-old is fearlessly speaking tattva, fearlessly speaking philosophy, fearlessly speaking the aim of human life, that is Krishna Bhakti, to all his friends. So a few days passed, and for the second time, Hiranyakashipu, he asked his son Prahlad to come. He said, Prahlad, will you come? It's been so long I've spoken to you. Will you come? Very nicely spoke sweet words. And Prahlad walked. And Prahlad again sat on the lap of his father Hiranyakashipu. And he asked, Prahlad, what did you learn? What did Shanda and Amarka teach you? Did they teach you something nice? Can you summarize what they taught you? And at that time, Prahlad Maharaj again he says that, my dear father, I have told you so many times that the only thing that we should study and contemplate and meditate upon, the only person for whom we should give every breath of ours is the Supreme Lord Vishnu, is the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Vani gunanu kathane shravanau kathayam hastau cha karma sumanas tava pada yorna smritya shiras tava nivasa jagat praname drishti satam darshane subhavat tanunam. Canto 10, Chapter 10, Text 38, Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vani Gudanu Kathane, the tongue is meant to glorify the Lord. Shravanau Kathayam, the ears are meant to hear the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Hastau cha karma sumanas tava padayorna. The hand is meant to serve the Lord and the mind is meant to think of the Lord. Smritya shiras means the head. Smritya shiras tava nivasa jagat praname. The head is given so that we offer our obeisance to the Lord. And drishti satam darshane stu bhavat tanuna. My dear father, the eyes are given so that we see the beautiful form of Vishnu. We see the beautiful form of Krishna. When Hiranyakashipu heard this, he was furious. And he picked up Prahlad and threw Prahlad to the ground. And he called Shanda and Amarka and said, "What are you teaching him? I told you last time that we should not teach anything about Vishnu. And even after repeated advice, you're teaching Prahlad about Vishnu." Shanda and Amarka said, "Oh Hiranyakashipu, believe me, we have not taught him anything about Vishnu. We teach him that you are the supreme personality of Godhead." But somehow he always ends up saying Vishnu is the supreme Lord. "Believe me, oh Hiranyakashipu, we have not taught him anything." So Hiranyakashipu was so enraged, he was so angry. We can imagine that a 5-year-old son was picked up and thrown to the ground. And Prahlad did not say anything. He absolutely did not say anything. And Hiranyakashipu, he asked his associates, the demoniac associates. We can see in the 7th canto, the disciples of Prabhupada very nicely, they have even painted images just to give us a feel as to how demoniac they were in their appearance. Sharp teeth, big eyes, dark in complexion, long hair, muscular body, having a trident, having a spear in their hand. And Hiranyakashipu ordered them, "Kill him. Kill Prahlad. He's like a spy. He is born in my family, but he's going against me. If we don't rectify this problem from the root, in due course, even though he's in my family, he will destroy and he will dethrone me. And before he grows up, it is time we kill him." So this instruction was given, and amidst the whole assembly, from all four sides, we can imagine, Prahlad was so small, only 5 years old. Now for the next 15 minutes, please give all your attention. This is the last 15 minutes of our discussion. Prahlad, who was only 5 years old, was sitting in front of the whole assembly, having a smile on his face, not knowing what is going to happen. From all four sides, these demoniac personalities, they started piercing, they started poking his tender body. We can imagine how tender the 5-year-old body is going to be. They were poking with spears on all sides. And Prahlad was closing his eyes and chanting, "Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya." Because that was the mantra in the Satya Yuga. Just like Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the prescribed mantra for Kali Yuga, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya was the mantra for Satya Yuga. So he was chanting, he was doing the Yuga Dharma when the spokes, where the spears were attacking his body. And when this was going on, complete absorption, Prahlad Maharaj was chanting the holy names of the Lord, and nothing happened to Prahlad. When Hiranyakashipu saw this, he ordered his associates, pick him up and throw him from the cliff. A 5-year-old was thrown from the cliff, and Prahlad did not say anything. When he was thrown from the cliff, Prahlad Maharaj, with his hands to his chest, praying to the Lord, "Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, oh Krishna, please protect me." Avashya Rakshibe Krishna Vishwasa Palana. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the quality of a devotee is Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. He has this firm faith that Krishna will protect. Why will Krishna not protect? It is Krishna's job to protect me. It is my job to chant his name, and it is his job to protect me. So Prahlad Maharaj was chanting the names of the Lord. And the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, Krishna, the Supreme Lord stretched his arms, and when Prahlad was falling from the cliff, the Supreme Lord held on to him, and nothing happened to Prahlad. So Hiranyakashipu was thinking to himself, what is this? What power is this? I did penance for so many years, but even I don't have such powers. He is being poked by sphere, and nothing is happening to his body. He is being thrown from a cliff, nothing is happening to his body. He was thrown in a pit of deadly poisonous snakes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nothing happened. Poisonous snakes were there, and nothing happened to Prahlad. He was thrown in a pot of boiling oil, and Prahlad was just sitting. We may have heard this many times, but just let us try to introspect this point that he is a 5-year-old. How many times do we come across a 5-year-old who has so much devotion? Even if someone does bhakti for 500 lifetimes, still we fail to have this devotion. And here we are talking about a 5-year-old, dear devotees, having so much devotion, and the Lord is protecting him every single time. He was put in a pot of boiling oil, and he was praying to the Lord. And that pot of boiling oil was almost like the warm embrace of Krishna. Nothing happened to Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu was going mad every time. He was thinking, what is this? People get burnt in oil, and his body is, in fact, it is described when he came out of the oil, Prahlad Maharaj was more effulgent than before. His body was radiating. Hiranyakashipu was going mad. What is this? Every time I try to kill him, he is becoming more and more powerful. The Supreme Lord always protects his devotees. Srila Prabhupada was once at one place. This is in the early 1960s. And the disciples, they did not have a chatai. They did not have a mat to help Prabhupada sit on that. So Prabhupada was just sitting on the floor. And they came to Prabhupada. It was a hot summer afternoon in India. So they came to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, we are extremely sorry. We did not welcome you properly. We do not have a cloth. You are sitting in this hot floor, hot surface. And Prabhupada said, no, this is not hot. This is the warm embrace of Mother Earth. There is nothing to fear. This is the warm embrace of Mother Earth. So don't worry. This was Prabhupada's vision. For anyone else, it would have been a hot, boiling surface, but for Prabhupada, that was the hot embrace of Krishna. Another time, Prabhupada was in America, and Prabhupada was just on a sannyas cloth. And we know how cold US can get in winters. And Prabhupada was sitting on the terrace, and there was no sweater. And it was windy and very cold. And they told Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, we are extremely sorry. We did not get you the winter clothes. And Prabhupada said, nothing to worry. This is like the cold breeze. Krishna is trying to embrace me in the form of cold breeze. So there is nothing to worry. So Prabhupada at all circumstances was able to see Krishna when he was sitting on a hot surface or when he was sitting in chilly atmosphere in the United States. And we find this is the mood of pure Vaishnavas. This is the mood of pure devotees. They see Krishna's hand in every single activity. So here was Prahlad Maharaj who was put in boiling oil, and for Prahlad Maharaj, just like Prabhupada, it was like the warm embrace of Krishna. And when he came out of the oil, he was radiating. He was molten gold. Hiranyakashipu was thinking, Are Baba, what is this? How will I kill him? He's a 5-year-old, but he's having so much Shakti. At that time, Hiranyakashipu, he held the hand of Prahlad Maharaj and he brought him to the assembly. That assembly where all the associates of Hiranyakashipu, the family members of Hiranyakashipu, they were all present. And he said, you say Vishnu is present everywhere? You say Vishnu is there in every corner? Is he there in this pillar? Can you prove it to me that your Vishnu, your Hari, whom you always pray? You told me, because we discussed as to how Prahlad Maharaj gave the instruction to his father that Vanam Gatoya Harimashrayata, worship Hari. So Hiranyakashipu, he told Prahlad that you asked me to worship Hari, and you say your Hari is present everywhere. Is he there in this pillar? Can you prove it to me that he is there in this pillar? At that time, It's almost as if Prahlad Maharaj looked at the pillar and Narsingadev was getting ready inside. And Narsingadev gave a thumbs up to Prahlad. And Prahlad Maharaj said, okay, my dear Lord, get set, go. I am going to tell Hiranyakashipu that you are there in this pillar. My dear Lord, please be prepared. So when this question was asked to Prahlad Maharaj, that is he there in this pillar? Prahlad Maharaj, without a hesitation, he said, yes, he's there in this pillar. What to speak of this pillar? He's there in this style, he's there in this atom, he's there here, he's there. He's present every single place. For us, if we are asked if Krishna is present in the deity, we will think twice. We know all the philosophy, but if we are asked Krishna is there in the deity, we will say, everyone says Krishna is there in the deity, that's why I also believe. If someone comes up to us and says that if Krishna is there in this deity, why isn't he reciprocating? We will naturally switch sides and we will say, actually, you are right. If Krishna is there, he should reciprocate. He is not reciprocating. That means he is not there in the deity. This is our faith. So weak. But Prahlad Maharaj, without a hesitation, 5-year-old, he said, my dear father, what to speak of this pillar? He is there in this pillar, he is there in this atom, he is there here, he is he is there everywhere. You name a place where he is not there. So Hiranyakashipu thought to himself, okay, if he is here, I will break this pillar. I want to see whether your Hari is present here. Prahlad Maharaj said, okay, so be it. And Shukadev Goswami at that time, he chants one verse and summarizes the whole pastime of Prahlad and Nrsimha. It is a very beautiful verse that we can by heart. If we cannot by heart, let us at least on the day of Narsimha Chaturdashi, with a book, let us go and chant in front of Nrsimha Dev. This is Canto 7, Chapter 8, Text 17. 7, 8, 17. The whole of Nrsimha Leela in one verse. What does Shukadev Goswami say? He says, Satyam vidhatum nijabretya bhashitam vyaptem cha bhuteshva akhileshu chatmanah adresyatamad bhutarupamudvahan sthambe sabhayam namragam namanusham. 7, 8, 17. What does this verse say? Satyam vidhatum nijabhritya bhashitam. Nijabhritya means dear associate, close associate. Bhashita means the words, the speech. Satyam vidhatum, in order to prove that the statement of his near devotee, that is Prahlad Maharaj, is true. What was the statement that Prahlad Maharaj made? Vyaptim cha bhuteshu akhileshu chatmana, that the Supreme Lord is present in every atom, in every pillar, in every stone, in every tile. He is present in ether. He is present in every place. This was the statement. This was the verdict that Prahlad Maharaj did. So, Satyam Vidhatum Nijabhritya Bhashitam, in order to prove the Bhashitam, in order to prove the words of Prahlad Maharaj true, that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere. Vyaptim cha bhuteshu akhileshu chatmana. At that time, adrishyatam adbhutarupam udvahan. At that time, the Supreme Lord, he came in a form adrishya, unbelievable, unfathomable. No one had ever thought that even such a form exists. Adrishyatam adbhutarupam udvahan. We can imagine when Shukadev Goswami is speaking, he is Radharani's parrot, but even when he is speaking, he is intoxicated by this form of Narsingadev. He says, Adbhut. That form was Adbhut. And what was that form? Sthambe sabhayam namrigam namanusham. In front of the whole sabha, that is the whole assembly, the Supreme Lord came from a stamba. Stamba means a pillar. What was that form that was never seen before? Na mrigam, na manusham. It was not an animal. It was not a human. It was a half man, half lion. The face was that of an animal, but the remaining part of the body was like that of a human. No one had even thought that such a form exists. A mixture of an animal and a human being. And our Acharya say at that time when Hiranyakashipu saw this form, and when Narsingadev came out, Narsingadev did not even think what people will think in that assembly. He did not think that people will mock at me, people will laugh at this form. Because we see, if even in our congregation circles or when we go outside, if we wear something that is really weird, naturally we become the point of talking. People make fun behind our back, people mock us if the dressing sense is really weird. Here the Supreme Lord is coming in a form that is unbelievable. The face is a lion, the remaining part is a body. He does not even think to himself whether people of that assembly will laugh at me, whether people will criticize, whether they will mock. He is not ready to think anything. Just to prove the words of a 5-year-old Prahlad, the Lord comes out to prove his statement true and in order to protect him. Adbhut, unimaginable for a 5-year-old. He is ready to leave his pastimes and come down for a 5-year-old. So if the Lord can come for a 5-year-old, why will he not come when we call? Is it very difficult to understand? If we chant our Hare Krishna Mahamantra every single day, if we serve the Vaishnavas, why will the Lord not come? If for a 5-year-old the Lord can come leaving everything, why will he not come for all of us? He will definitely. The Lord is teaching by example that have faith, just like the faith Prahlad Maharaj had. Perform bhakti, serve Vaishnavas, chant the holy name. I will come and protect and maintain you. So the Supreme Lord, it's so beautiful and so interesting. When the Lord came out of the pillar, it was afternoon 12 o'clock. It was afternoon 12 o'clock. And now Hiranyakashipu, he had also asked this boon that he should not be killed in afternoon. He should not be killed morning, afternoon, evening, and night. This was also one of the boons. So you can imagine he has like conquered everything. No morning, no afternoon, no evening, and no night. So Brahma, he with his 4 heads, he said a yes, but he was like scratching his head. How can he ever be killed? So the Lord, when he came out from the pillar, it was afternoon 12 o'clock. So for 6 hours, the Lord was just playing with him like a mosquito. Just like we find, if there is a small mosquito in our hand, the mosquito kinds of moves from one finger to another finger to another finger, and then we move our hand and the mosquito again moves here. Like small insects. It may be a mosquito or it may be any other insect. It is so small in comparison to our size that we kind of play with it. Our acharyas described that was the scene. Hiranyakashipu, who was so powerful and who was terrorizing the whole universe, was like a mosquito in front of Narsingadev. And Narsingadev was roaring like a lion. So much so that the demigods were afraid. Indra, Chandra, Agni, Vayu, Varuna were thinking, what form is this? We have seen Vishnu, we have seen Krishna, but what form is this? Everyone was so afraid of this form. To add to this, just a lion, just imagine we move out of Palomino or we move out in Sammamish and we find a lion. How many of us would have this audacity to go in front of that lion? No one. And here is a lion who's coming, a mixture of lion and a human. And to add to this, he also has weapons. Narsingadev came with weapons. He had Shankha, Chakra, Gadha, Padma, bow and arrow, sword. So lion itself is dangerous, and on top of that, the Lord came with all the weapons. And Hiranyakashipu, like a mosquito, was trying to kill the Supreme Lord Narsingadev. And for 6 hours, the Lord was just playing around with Hiranyakashipu. And when it was dusk, evening time, dusk. Now, dusk is not evening, because dusk is the time when there is a transition between afternoon to evening or evening to night. To be precise, it is evening to night. Dusk is that time when it is evening to night. So it is neither evening nor night. So that desire is fulfilled. The Lord picked up Hiranyakashipu and placed him on his lap. Now the lap was neither ground nor water nor air. So that was also fulfilled. The Lord, the one of the desires that was asked by Hiranyakashipu was he should not be killed inside the house, he should not be killed outside the house. The Lord took him on the doorstep in Tata. He placed him on the doorstep on his lap in the evening time, that is dusk. One of the benedictions, as we discussed, that was granted to Hiranyakashipu was he should not be killed in any of the 12 months. To kill Hiranyakashipu, the Lord created a 13th month called as Purushottam month. It is in Purushottam month that the Lord killed Hiranyakashipu. So amazing. If we think we are smart, the Lord is way more smarter than all of us. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, among the cheats, I am the greatest gambler. So if we think we are smart, Krishna is way more smarter. So Hiranyakashipu thought to himself that if I am not killed in any of the 12 months, no one can ever kill me. So the Lord on purpose created a 13th month, that is Purushottam month, Adhik Mas. And in that 13th month, not inside the house, not outside the house, but in Tata, not in water, not in air, not in ground, but on his lap, not with weapons, but with his nails, not by demigods, not by anyone created by Brahma, because Vishnu is not created by Brahma. With his nails during dusk time, the Lord ripped Hiranyakashipu apart. He tore him into pieces completely by keeping him on his lap. He was so angry that he tore him completely. And the Lord was seeing that, is this the heart where you had created so much enmity to me? Is this the heart that you had created so much enmity unto Prahlad? Why, O Hiranyakashipu? You could have been such a wonderful devotee. You are Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, none other than Jai and Vijay. Lord Narsinghadev was thinking to himself, how did you manage collecting so much dust and so much dirt in your heart? With his nails, the Lord just ripped him apart completely. So that's the first ever gastrointestinal surgery that was ever performed. The Lord with his nails just put his nails inside and just tore completely apart. And seeing that form, no one had the guts to go in front of the Lord. What to speak of garlanding the Lord? Because we see when pure Vaishnavas, when pure sadhus come, we garland them. In the temple, we garland the Supreme Lord. So here, Sakshat, Supreme Lord Bhagavan has come. How can anyone garland this ferocious form of Narsinghadev? So Narsinghadev, he garlands himself. He takes the intestine of Hiranyakashipu. He plucks the intestine of Hiranyakashipu and garlands himself. That intestine that is filled with blood in the mood of a lion roaring. The Lord picks up that intestine and garlands himself and thinks to himself, y'all cannot garland me, I will garland myself. We can imagine so much anger Hiranyakashipu, Narsinghadev had because his dear devotee Prahlad was troubled and tortured. It is this form of Narsinghadev that is installed in Mayapur temple, Ugra Narsingha, Sthanu Narsimha. It is this form of Narsinghadev who was worshipped by Pankajangri Prabhu for 48 years of his life. We can imagine that form of Narsinghadev, even the demigods were fearing. What to speak of demigods? Even Lakshmi, who is the consort of Narsinghadev, even she was fearing to go in front of Narsinghadev. And that form of Narsinghadev was worshipped by Pankajangri Prabhu. So we can imagine how exalted and how glorious was Pankajangri Prabhu to worship that ferocious form of the Lord, whom even the demigods feared to go close. And here was Pankajangri Prabhu who would bathe the Lord, who would massage the Lord, who would oil the Lord, and who would chant prayers to the Lord. It only speaks about his purity and his selfless service at the lotus feet of Nrsingadev. So even Lakshmi was afraid and fearful to go in front of this form. And when Brahma was there, everyone turned towards Brahma and they said, Brahma, you are the creator. You gave all the boons. It is because of you that we are seeing this form. You go ahead. And Brahma said, no, I cannot go ahead. I have 4 heads, but I cannot fathom this form. You please excuse me. And they turned towards Lakshmi. And Lakshmi also said, I worship Vishnu, that Vishnu who sleeps on the causal ocean. I know that Vishnu. I like that husband, but not this husband who is roaring. I cannot go in front of this Vishnu. And they asked Prahlad, Prahlad, will you go ahead? And Prahlad, again without hesitation, he said, of course I will go ahead. What is there to fear? And the demigods were thinking to himself, from where does he get so much power and so much fearlessness? Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Abhaya Charanara Vindhare, Bhajahure Mana Shri Nanda Nandana, Abhaya Charanara Vindhare. Anyone who worships Nandanandan Shri Krishna, they will naturally become fearless. This is the quality of worshipping the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. So Prahlad was completely fearless. And when he went ahead, he was standing in front of the ferocious form of Nrsingadev, and he started chanting his prayers. Canto 7, chapter 9. He starts chanting various prayers to pacify the Lord, and the Lord becomes completely pacified. And Nrsingadev, just like a lion, he becomes so happy seeing Prahlad that he starts licking Prahlad Maharaj. We find lions, when they see their cub, they start licking. So Nrsingadev was a lion. So he saw Prahlad Maharaj and he started licking Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj was thinking to himself, my dear Lord, what is this? What are you doing? Why are you licking me? And Nrsingadev said, Prahlad, I am a lion. And this is how lions express their love. We see lions express their love for their cubs by licking them. So Nrsingadev started licking Prahlad Maharaj. And it is because of Prahlad's purity and Prahlad's dedication and faith that he invoked Nrsingadev down. Just like Advaita Acharya invoked Sachinandan Gauranga Mahaprabhu down, similarly, Prahlad's purity and faith invoked Nrsingadev down. It's very interesting. When Prahlad Maharaj was standing eye to eye, face to face in front of Hiranyakashipu, Nrsingadev asked Prahlad Maharaj that, Prahlad, is there anything that I can fulfill for you? Do you have any desire? And at that time, Prahlad Maharaj says, my dear Nrsingadev, my dear Supreme Lord Sri Vishnu, oh Hari, my only desire is if my father can get liberated. I know my father was very demoniac, but my dear Lord, please excuse him. Please forgive him of all his offenses. My only desire is if my father Hiranyakashipu can be delivered. And Nrsingadev, when he hears this, he has tears in his eyes and he says, Prahlad, your father is already delivered because he was in contact with you, because he was in contact with Prahlad, who was such an exalted Vaishnava. Oh Prahlad, your father is already delivered. There is nothing to worry. Hiranyakashipu chapi Bhagavan nindaya tama vivikshur atyagat shuno prahladasyanubhavatah. Canto 7, chapter 1, in one of the purports, Prabhupada quotes this verse and says that Hiranyakashipu, who was having a VIP entry to hell, who was literally having a red carpet entry to hell because of his activities, now that same Hiranyakashipu had taken a 180-degree U-turn and was going back home, back to Godhead. Why? Prahladasyanubhavatah, only because he was connected to a pure Vaishnava by the name Prahlad. So this is so hope-giving that Hiranyakashipu may have been dead and gone, but that inclination, that pravritti is still there in the hearts of all of us. But if we can somehow or the other hold on to the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava, just stay connected to a pure Vaishnava, then even though we are demoniac, even though our hearts are filled with all material desires, just by our connection to a pure Vaishnava, we will also go back home, back to Godhead. Just like Hiranyakashipu, even though he was demoniac, was connected to Prahlad and ended up going back to the service of the Supreme Lord. So in this way, we find the whole of 7th canto only deals with this most wonderful pastime of Prahlad and Nrsingadev, which extols the glory of Prahlad Maharaj. Having said this, I stop here, and we find in another 2 days' time, we are going to celebrate the most auspicious occasion of the appearance day of Nrsingadev. on the day of Narsingha Chaturdashi. May we all be absorbed in this most wonderful pastime that we ended up discussing for 3 classes in detail. And may Narsinghadev shower his blessings upon all of us, just like he did for Prahlad and for Hiranyakashipu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Narsinghadev Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Patita Pavan Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.